Hey guys, Sportshot here, and today we're going to be going over all the Krunker settings and explaining what they do. Anyway, before we do, you guys should definitely subscribe and hit that bell notification so you get notified of more videos like this. Anyway, let's get right into it. So the first settings that we're going to be going over here are the localization settings. If you go over here, you can see that you have your default region. This will basically make it so that you get better ping. All you have to do is just kind of select the city or region that is closest to where you are, so it can find the closest server. And then also you can change your language. They currently support English, Spanish, German, and Korean. And the Korean was broken before, but it looks like they have it mostly fixed. They don't have it for ranked or profile yet. They are still working on that, but it's doing pretty good so far. And if we make our way down here to performance, these are all of your settings that will kind of contribute to how much FPS you get or how the game looks. So here you obviously have resolution, which will obviously change the resolution. Now this is the best way to get more FPS, although for some reason when I turn it down really low I get worse FPS. So I'm going to put that back up. I usually keep it at max, but if you have a bad computer, you can just mess around with that. And then also here we have frame cap. This will maximize the amount of frames per second that you'll get. So say I want it to only be like 180, it will cap out at 180, but for some reason I get frame skipping here every once in a while. And then also it's usually around 40 or 30 away from what the actual thing was. So I generally don't use this setting, I just kind of let my computer run. And then you have your low spec setting here. What this will do is it will turn off legs for your enemy players, and then it will also lower animation quality and stuff like that, so that basically you don't have to render as much stuff and your game can run a lot faster. Now if we go back into settings here, they have more stuff here like particles. Particles here, you can see when I shoot this red thing here, you have particles that are like bullet holes, and then also you get little like smoke particles there. If you want to turn those off, you don't get the smoke and you don't get the bullet holes. Also, if we go back into settings, we have shadows. So basically the sun will come down here and it will cast a shadow, and if you want to turn them on and off, you can just toggle them on and off. Same thing with ambient shading. It kind of adds shaders around all of the corners and everything like that. It makes the game look a lot better, but I generally don't have it because it makes it a little bit harder to see enemies. The bullet trail setting right here, basically what that does is when you shoot a, I think it's only supported for the sniper, you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, it will basically just let you see the little trail that the bullets make, and then you can obviously just turn that off if you don't want it. And then the muzzle flash is the flash in front of the muzzle. I generally don't use it, but it looks like it's broken because it's not showing up for me right now. Actually, it showed up for like a split second there. And then the sniper flap right here, I had to restart the game to get it to work, but you can see it's the little circular flap on the side of the scope right there that's moving around with my character. And then you can obviously turn that off if you don't want it, but I think your character has to reset, which means you basically have to die and respawn for the new setting to be implemented. Alright, now we are in a public match to talk about the interface things, because most of them do have to do with enemies. Now we have UI scale here that you can basically just turn your UI up and down. It's a little bit glitchy, but that's fine. Show UI will basically just turn off your UI in game except for your crosshair and your scope. And then if we can turn that back on, we have dynamic HP bars and the show damage. Now I'm going to show you what both of those are right here. Dynamic HP bars. That did not work. But dynamic HP bars is when you do damage to an enemy, and then you'll see a little white spot on the HP bar that basically just shows you how much damage you did to them. I'm gonna do that right here, if I can get them. Here you can see that little the little white spots on their HP bar showed how much damage I did, and then the show damage setting will basically show you the little numbers that pop up when you do damage to somebody. That shows you how much damage you did. Now if we go back into that, and then right here you can see crit color will show up, well, I made it show up red. You can change it as much as you want when you get a headshot, and then normal, I just have it show up the same color as my crosshair. So I'm going to show you that right here. You can see there it's purple because I didn't get any headshots. Now I'm going to try to get headshots right here. I didn't get any, but you can see there I did 34. It was red because I got a headshot. And back here in the settings, the damage scale will show how big or how small the little numbers that pop up when you do damage to somebody are. So if I want to turn them all the way down here, they will be so small that I can barely see them. They're barely just dots on the screen. And then say I want to pop them all the way up to double the default amount. They are giant and you can see them from the entire map away. And we can just kind of blow through most of these right here. Let me get this guy up. Okay. But you can see here chat box is just the chat box down here. And then kill feed is basically just the kills, so you can turn that on and off. Show deaths and where is it? Show kills. It's not here for some reason. They got rid of it. But the deaths are up in the top right corner with the skull with the X on it, and the kills is just the normal skull. And everything else here I think is self-explanatory except for movement speed and medals. Movement speed is the little yellow number under my crosshair. I'll show you after I get this guy right here. Little yellow number here that basically just shows how fast you're going in whatever the units are that Krunker uses. And then the show medals option, I'll just explain what a medal is. It's that little orange thing that will pop up saying what I did to get the kill after I get a kill. So say I get a headshot, it'll pop up saying headshot, stuff like that. Let me find somebody so that I can show that to you. Right there, it said headshot, midair, and those are what medals are. So now on to the crosshair settings. I made an entire video going over these in depth, but I'm going to go over them briefly right here. I have mine as an image right now, and the crosshair is the little cross in the middle of my screen right now, and you can use that to aim. So this is default. This is what it looks like normally when you just load into the game. They kind of move around. I don't really like that because you can't get a precise angle on what the middle of your screen is. And then here, custom. I like this, I guess second most other than the image, because the image you can get a lot more quality out of, I guess. But you can just kind of make this whatever you want. So I have it as a cross, but you can make it all these shapes right here. And then you can have always show on, which will basically just show it when you're aiming down sights. So if we turn that back on, which I like to keep it on, you can see when you're aiming down sights. And then you can change the color here and the shadow color, which is the shadow of the crosshair. Or you can just turn that off if you want to by making it, I think you can edit the opacity of it, I'm not sure. But then you can change the size of it, so if you want it to be giant, you can do that. And if you want it to be extremely thick, you can do that. And if we get into our gameplay settings, these are mostly controls. So this is sensitivity, you can turn it up to whatever you want, but this will basically change how sensitive your mouse movements are when looking around. I usually like to keep that at around 1 or just somewhere around there. Aim sensitivity is the same thing, but while you're aiming down your sights. And then your field of view is how far out you can look, if you can see in the background there. When I turn it low, I can't look around that much, but if I turn it up high, I can. And then lag compensation will basically compensate your shots for lag, so it will kind of delay or speed up your shots depending on how much lag you have, but you have to enter that manually. I usually like to keep it at 1. Scroll direction, if you want, you can go like, it's kind of hard to explain, I'll just do it next. So to explain scroll direction, if we have scroll direction on, you can see that when we scroll up, we go through knife and primary, and then when we go down, we go through primary and secondary. Now, if we just toggle that, I'm pretty sure it's the opposite. So when we scroll up, it's secondary and primary, and then down is secondary and knife. Now, if we go, I just like to keep that on to the on position because that's what I'm used to. You can go into streamer mode, which will basically turn off all, I guess, like sensitive information, like your username and what round you're in. Challenge mode will, this is pretty cool, although you do have to die to turn it on, like respawn. It will turn your health, it will cut your health in half, and then it will make it so that you can't get any health back through regeneration, but you will get I think 50% extra KR per round. So instead of the usual 30, you should be able to get, I think, 45. Now if we go down into invert y-axis, this will basically make it so that if you push your mouse up, you go down, and if you push your mouse down, you go up. I usually like to keep that off because I'm not used to using that. And then name tags are the tags above people's heads that show their name and health. You can turn them off for anybody, turn them to enemy only, team only, or everyone. I like to keep that at everyone so I can see where people are. So your audio settings here are extremely simple. You have your sound, which is how loud gunshots and steps and literally everything inside of the game are. I like to keep that kind of low. And then voice volume, that's the voice chat volume. If you don't want to hear it, you can just turn it to 0. But yeah, that's basically how loud people are through voice chat. And just a little reminder, if you want to talk through voice chat, you hold down V while you're speaking. So our next setting here will be our view model, and we're going to be starting off with our weapon FOV. And it basically changes how close or far away your weapon is. So if you have it to 60, it's really close, and then if you have it to 120, it's really far away and really small. Getting back into the view model settings, we have weapon bobbing, which is how much your weapon will move. So if you turn it up to 3, you can see your weapon is just kind of flying all over the place. And then if you want to turn it to 0, your weapon just won't really move. It'll move a little bit when you're kind of like turning like that. But I like to keep it somewhere to the low middle, so you get a little bit of movement there, but it's not waving all over the place. And then weapon leaning is how far your weapon will lean when you're kind of crouching. Or no, it's actually how much your weapon will point in one direction. So if I move my head from side to side, it will go a lot when I have it up a lot. And then I can turn it down to 0 and it won't move. Now back to the X, Y, and Z offset. It will basically just make it so it goes closer or further during a offset. So if you want to, for example, to go on the X-axis, you can make it go 0 for to be on like the origin, or you can have it go to 2 for it to be on the side, or like 2x. Now if we, well, it's basically the same thing for all of them. You can kind of do that yourself. HUD weapon on aim down sight will basically just make the weapon invisible when you're aiming down sights. I like to keep that on so I can see what I'm aiming at. And then show primary, secondary, and melee. It will basically just make it so you can see all of your weapons, whether or not you have that turned on. And getting into editing, this is basically just what your HUD kind of looks like. And then they have a few other weird settings in there. So your HUD health high is basically the color of your health when it's high or above, I think it's 50%. So maybe I want it to be like that weird red color. I think I have to reset my character for it to happen, but basically when your health is above 50%, it'll be this color, and when it's below 50%, it will be the HUD health low color. Now pop-up score color is when you get a kill or an assist, and then you see like 25, 50, or like however many score you got pop up. That's when you will see that. Pop-up score shadow is just a little shadow behind that. So yeah, you can just turn that on or off. I like to keep it on. Pop-up score scale, this is basically how big it is. So kind of like all the other scale options. Saturation is how intense the colors are. I like to keep it at a medium high kind of setting, so I can see things really easily, but it also won't look like a weird game like Fortnite, but if you want it to look really depressing, you can turn it down low. And to finish this off here, we have color hue, which will change the hue of all of the colors on the screen. So if you want it to look really weird, you can do that. And then vignette is basically like shadows on the side of your screen. So you can see the game looks a lot more like intense kinda, so you can use that for when you're editing or making a video or something like that. Depth map will show you how, oh wait, here it is. Will show you how far away stuff is. So if you have it set to 15, the shadow will start 15 away, and then if you have it to like 1 or like 95, the shadow will start 95 units away. And then green screen will just turn on a green screen for everything in the game except for your HUD and your weapon. Now we have our final settings here, customization. Now load mods will turn your mods on or off, and you can get mods by going to mods and then mods list. And then you just kind of have to click on one for it to work. So if I want the PUBG silence mod, it will give me the sound mod. And then I can go back here and go all the way down and turn it off, and it would go back to normal when my character resets. Auto load mods is basically like, do you want to keep your mods when you load into a new server, or do you want all of your mods to reset? Scope borders are the black outline on a scope. I will have to reset my character to show that. But it's basically like the difference between open scopes and closed scopes. And then if we have scope image, it's just the image that shows up as your scope reticle. Hit marker image is the image that shows up when you get a hit on an enemy. Red dot image is the image that will happen when you're aiming down any sight with any sight or any gun's sight that is a red dot. So like this, I just have it as my normal hit marker. And then match end message is basically like a robot message that will be said at the end of every round. I have that saying GG, come check out my channel. Profile image, I have that as a kind of heart because it looks like it's near the health bar. And then if we go on to ammo icon image, I have that as some weird crystal thing just because I thought it kind of looked cool. And mind, you can make these GIFs if you want them to be. Kill icon image is basically the little skull in the top right corner. It says 0 next to it right now. That just shows how many kills you have. Same thing with deaths. It's the same exact thing, but the one with the cross behind it, or like the X. And then damage overlay. It's kind of like when you get damaged and you see that kind of like red square pop up showing you where you got hit from. That's what that is. So you can change the image into whatever you want. Timer icon is obviously the timer. It's the purple little stopwatch in the corner. And our final few settings here. Our game overlay image, I'm not exactly sure what that is. If you know what that is, please comment that in the comments down below. And then performance, you can turn unlimited FPS on or off. That just made my entire program restart. I'm not sure exactly what that does, but we can see what that does here. I think that might just be VSync. Yeah, no, it's just lagging out my game. Don't do that. It's not worth it. So I'm gonna have to restart my client again right here. Oh, by the way, I'm editing the video as I go along because this video is gonna be like 20 minutes, which is like 10 times longer than my normal video. And then we have window capture. I'm not sure what that does, but we'll see right here. So let's restart the client. And it's not looking like it did anything, but the FPS is cut down by a lot, so I'm not sure exactly what that does. If anybody knows what these do, please comment down below again, because I don't know what they do. I will pin your comment or try to get it to the top of the comments just to show people in the comments what these things actually do. So those are all of the primary settings. You can also change your controls and rebind them by just clicking here and then pressing whatever button you want, and that's how you rebind your things. I think that's everything. You can import and export your settings. I will have my settings in the video description, and you can reset everything. So that's going to be about it for this video. This was a really long video to record. Anyway, thanks for watching, and please remember to subscribe and like the video.